Hello, this is Jeff Gamble from Indianapolis, Indiana, and this is the MLM Lunchtime Leadership Show. So we're going to bring everybody on here, send them a message. Welcome, welcome. Hope you're starting out your day right. Things are going well. Get all these invites in here. Josh. Travis. Trying to get them all in here, guys. Give me a second. Somebody said you could do that ahead of time. I still haven't figured it out. Bess, bring her on.
Travis is with us. What's happening, sir? Happy Wednesday. Halfway through the week. There she is.
Howdy, everyone. How are you today? We are Jeffrey David Gamble of My Leadership Network, also a certified John Maxwell trainer, and Bess McCarty of the MLM Millionaire Club, also called the Shrink of MLM. We partner to bring you these generic trainings weekdays, noon, Eastern Time, every Monday through Friday, the MLM Leadership Lunchtime Show. If you're watching the replay, we'd love if you type that in and also say where you're from. We'd like to hear that. Our purpose is to help people grow, to educate, empower, and equip entrepreneurs and create independent servant leaders. Today, exciting topic. This is one of the 21 this is number 6 of the 21 Irrefutable Laws of Leadership by John Maxwell. And today is the law of solid ground, number 6. This is really about trust. And without trust, there is no influence. So really, trust is the foundation of leadership. Right, Jeff?
That is correct. That is correct. Actually, one of my companies is named this. So building trust requires competence, connection, and character. So let's learn the law of solid ground. This is John always says, this is one of my favorite laws. Well, of course it is. He wrote it. But it took him over 20 years to actually find these lessons. And what I mean by find these lessons is as he was creating them, he was probably consulting with a group of several hundred people. And he constantly asked the question, he's like, what do you think about this law? And he's like, what he did is he ran this past people who had been leading for years and years and years. And he's like, this was one of the ones that popped up on everybody's list. And I mean, without a doubt, they didn't even have to look into it. They're like, yes, absolutely, this is one of them. So learning the law of solid ground, it says trust is the foundation of all leadership. Trust is like a change in a leader's pocket. It says each time he makes a good decision, you basically are able to get more change. Each time you make a poor decision, they take away. Now, here's the problem. It really works as an 80-20. And what I mean by that is 80% is taken away and 20% is given. That's an unfortunate hard lesson to learn inside of leadership. Most people don't get that right off the bat. Kenny's with us. What's happening? Most people don't understand this, that when you go out to lead, when you go out to do something and you're doing good things, it's like people almost are giving you a penny for doing something right, but they're taking away a dime every time, you do something wrong. And most people don't have more than $1 worth of trust in them. And that's unfortunate. That's just the way it works. And there's certain people out there that they've made positive deposits for so long that they can make major screw ups and people will still trust them. People will still follow them. They're like, look, we'll give you the benefit of the doubt on this because we know what you do on such a regular basis. And we talked yesterday about adding value to people, the law of addition. You've done so on such a regular basis that we're going to give you that leeway to know that, it was probably just a minor screw up, even though, one of the stories that John talks about in this lesson is of a pastor out on the West Coast, Rick Warren. And Rick Warren made a mistake with over $100,000 of the church's money. And he started out, he said, you know, hey, I screwed up. We did this and we've lost $100,000 because of it. And literally, he said, people kind of looked down and were like, all right, what are we going to do now? I mean, it was $100,000, but it just went by so fast because he had built years and years and years of building trust with people. As John put it, he had made so many positive deposits that one negative didn't even scratch, you know, the trust level that he had with his people. So living the law of solid ground, he said, we build trust by consistently exemplifying competence, connection, and character. Character makes trust possible, and trust makes leadership possible. So that basically is how the law of solid ground works. You know, how long does it take to build trust? Sometimes it takes a long time to build trust with people, but worse, if you break trust, it takes forever to get it back. There's kind of a saying, you know, that goes, it says it might take, you know, it may take a lifetime, or it takes years to build trust. It takes a minute to screw it up, and it takes a lifetime to get it back. But it's possible. So, you know, if you haven't done everything right. Now, here's what happens inside of companies. A lot of times, you know, let's look at the idea of $1. Just for instance, let's look at the idea of $1, and let's say you're making deposits at 2 cents at a time. You know, 10 cents is the max deposit that you can make when it comes to trust. I'm just saying, because usually it takes a while for people. So I have a lot of people who ask me inside of MLM, inside of direct sales, they're like, hey, I switched companies, or I did something in my company, or I wasn't really consistent with my company. I left my company for a period of time. I wasn't really focused on what I was doing. I've been in for years, I've been in for days, whatever the case is. Just think of it this way. When you go out and you start actually presenting and you start building your business, let's say you're building it online and people can see visually that you're doing what you're doing. Think about how long it would take for the average person to build up $1 inside of an account. Positively, 2 cents at a time. You know, 2 cents at a time means that for 50 presentations, or maybe it's 50 days, or maybe it's 50 weeks for some people. Everybody has a different time frame on how much trust they need to see, on how consistent you have to be before they trust that they know you're going in the right direction. You know, for some people, it's like they see you doing so much. You know, I mean, imagine doing 50 presentations. Twan's with us. What's happening, sir? So imagine doing 50 presentations, you know, in a month's time, visually online where people can see. If you did 50 presentations online where people could see, and every time you did one of these presentations and somebody saw it, it would be like 2 cents into, you know, that trust factor. All of a sudden, what would happen? The compounding effect would happen where all of a sudden you'd build this massive trust with people where people are like, man, this person's serious. This person's going somewhere. But watch this. Take one day off. All of a sudden, they're retracting 8 cents. They're retracting 8 cents just one day. So it takes, you know, 4 to 5 days to basically not just break even, but to come ahead. It takes 5 days of consistency to break even and only 1 day off to go back 4 days. If you calculated it like that, think about how long it would take you to build trust with certain people. Certain people would need to see 50 presentations in a month. Certain people would need to see 50 days straight of you doing the work. Certain people would need to see 50 weeks of it. But watch this. At a certain point, you'd end up hitting trust with every single person if you consistently got the business in front of people, in front of people, in front of people. All of a sudden, their trust factor goes up and it's like, this person is so serious that I just believe they're going to make it. So that's where kind of that consistency comes in. When it talks about, you know, character, it says consistency. Followers need to know that they can count on you, How do they know that they can count on you? Because you're doing what you say you're going to do every single day, and they can see it, not just hear it, not just, hey, I'm excited. Hey, I have a dream. Hey, I made a dream board. Nobody, I mean, I'll be real honest, nobody cares about your dream board but you. And not that it's not important, but you can put your dreams up everywhere. And what most people do is that's a visual representation of insanity to most people. Why? It's a visual representation of insanity because most people don't believe you can even do that. Lots of people are like, look at my dream board. And people are like, yeah, you're nuts. You're nuts. You're crazy. You know, most people never get any of that stuff. You're building a reason in their head why you're not going to make it. But if you go out and do the work, Watch this. If you go out and do the work and do the work and do the work and do the work, I have friends that have been consistent for decades inside of their companies. And here's the thing. There's nobody, even people you don't even know that meet them. And I've had conversations with people who are like, yeah, I know a guy who, you know, is blah, blah, blah in that company. And I'm like, oh, really? Well, who's that? And they give me the name. And I was like, oh, yeah, that guy's been building for decades. And they're like, oh, yeah, I know. They're like, that guy, of course, that guy's going to make it. Nobody's that consistent in life. See, they don't even question whether he's going to make it or keep going because he's been so consistent for so long. Nobody can even argue the fact. Even the people who don't like the company or don't like the industry are like, oh, yeah, of course, that guy's going to make it. It's because of this law. It's because of the law of solid ground. Not because he has a dream board, not because he knows what car he wants. It's because the work he's doing is so consistent. It's so evident that he's going to make it. I'm reading a book right now called The 10X Factor. And in the 10X Factor, one of the things that Grant Cardone talks about is when you are so committed to the activity, it's so evident to everyone else around you that you're going to make it, that actually scares some people into building with you. It scares certain people to joining with you because they're like, this person is so excited. It's not the excitement level that brings them in. It's the effort level. It's the work level. Now, Gary Vaynerchuk talks about the same thing. You know, I remember watching a video and they were filming approximately 10 a.m. in the morning. And he's kind of walking around talking about what he's doing. And he's like, you know, I got up at 5 a.m. We did this workout. You know, I was at my first appointment by 6:15 for coffee, and then another one at 7:15, and then another one at 8:15, and another one at 9:15, and now here I am in the office at 10:30. He's like, I got more work done by 10 a.m. I mean, he sounded like the military. We get more work done by 10 a.m. than anybody else. But the reality is he doesn't do it once. But if you watch like Gary V Live, or the Gary V Show is what he calls it now, you can see him do this every single day. Every single day he's doing it. You can't deny the fact that he's doing what he's doing. The reason he's built an agency, a social media agency, into the thousands of people, the reason he has a New York office and a Tennessee office, and you know, I know he has one in London now with several hundred people in it. He's worldwide. Why? Because he was so consistent for so long. You couldn't deny the fact. Steve Martin, I think, said, you know, be so good that people can't deny you. You know, people are like, how do you make it in Hollywood? He's like, be so good, people can't deny you. You know, the same thing is true inside of network marketing, is be so consistent, work so much that people can't deny you. They're like, oh yeah, that person's going to make it. Hi, Kathy, how are you? So potential. You can never go beyond the limit of your character for very long. There's a certain cutoff point. If you don't keep growing, if you don't keep learning, if you don't keep reading, people notice that right away. Here's how we notice, is because you have nothing new to say. You have nothing new to say. You're repeating the same lines you told us last time. We can tell you bought the book but didn't read it. I can tell when people have bought all the books, they bought all the audios, they bought all the seminars, but they repeat the exact same thing that they said last time. And it usually focuses on, it sounds like this: me, 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 me. And now that I'm done talking about me, what do you think about me? That's their conversation. But it seems like when they start reading about personal development, they start listening to things, what happens is it shifts, and now it becomes about other people they've talked to, other people on their team, other people that are growing, this last person that got in. You can tell, I can tell in somebody's conversation if they're building. It's so simple. Who was the last person you talked to? Well, let me think about it. If you don't remember and you don't know and you can't come up with any names, you're not talking to anybody new. It's what happens. You know, I talked to a gentleman last night. I think my last presentation was at 11:45 last night. You know, it was a cold lead that, you know, came in through somebody else, and I had to have a conversation, and that was the time that we could have a conversation. So we had a conversation about it, and he's like, so what's next? I'm like, this, and then if you're interested, you're calling me at 2 p.m. tomorrow. He's like, okay. He's like, well, it's kind of weird that you'd be talking to somebody this late at night. I'm like, well, on the West Coast, it's only 8:45, and I worked on the West Coast for almost a decade. So to me, it's 8:45. He's like, oh, well, I guess that makes sense. I'm like, you're thinking so small because you're here in, this guy happened to be in Indianapolis. I'm like, you're thinking inside this box. I said, let me ask you a question. I said, what do you think is a really good hourly? You know, and this is a question I learned to ask about, you know, where somebody's at mentally. This is a young kid. He's 20 years old, or actually he's 21. He's 21 years old. I said, what do you think is a good hourly? Like, if you were really smashing it inside of work, what do you think is a good hourly? He's like, I don't know, about 20 bucks an hour, maybe 25. I said, yeah, that's pretty good, isn't it? He's like, yeah. I said, I wouldn't even sit down. You couldn't even stop me on the street if you didn't offer me $100 an hour. I wouldn't even look at it if it was less than 100. I said, is that a different way to look at things? He's like, yeah. Did that establish kind of a different trust with him on what we're doing? Yeah. You know, that's a way to grab some people's, you know, to grab people's attention, to be able to show them what we're talking about. You know, people who make just a different lifestyle, you know, but that trust factor of what's believable, what's current, you know, and bringing people, what we want to do is bring people up to our level. Respect. This is putting what's best for the organization ahead of personal gain and admitting when you've made a mistake. And John says, you know, one of the things, you can't reverse the fact of somebody taking the 8 cents away if you break trust, but what you can do is you can at least stop the piggy bank from bleeding out. Meaning, if you don't solve the issue, if you don't come out and say, hey, look, I messed up, what happens is the next time they see you, they pull back, and the next time they see you, they pull back. But sometimes you can stop that. It doesn't mean you're gaining anything, but it also means you've stopped losing every time you're around them, meaning losing trust. Earn trust with your clients. How do you earn trust with clients? It says, listen for the following. My team seems to hold back. They don't engage right away. I have a difficult time rallying the troops and getting things together. Well, part of it is if every time you talk to them, it's different. If every time you talk to them, and I had a huge problem with this when I first started, because I had different ideas of how we were going to say stuff and how we were going to do stuff. And then eventually I came up with, this is what I say and this is what I do. Well, when I came up with exactly, I said, it's not the only thing to say. It's just the best thing that I found. You know, this isn't the only way to close, but it's the best thing that I found. So when I found the way to open, and I found the way to present, and I found the way to close, and I did the same thing consistently over a long enough period of time, what happened is people started believing. They're like, well, that must be the way to do it, because he's been doing it for a decade and it still works, and he still outproduces. We're still able to bring in tons of people really quickly. We're still able to teach other people the same method, and they're able to bring in people very quickly. So that's part of the lesson that we're talking about, is that consistency, the character, doing what you say you're going to do. If you can do, one of my mentors, David Bird, said, if you can do what you say you're going to do consistently, at least 80% of the time, what happens is the trust factor starts to automatically build with other people. So with that, before we get into the last part of the lesson, I'm going to turn this back over to Bess and get her thoughts on the law of solid ground.
Thank you, Jeff. I have to say that a lot of what you're speaking about reminds me of you. So look at Jeff for a role model for this too. And I want to say hi to my good friend Kelly Rakowski, and to Don Fela, and Heidi, Harrison, Travis, Adrian, Joyce from Austin. Travis is driving through Oklahoma right now. Heidi's from Florida. And hi to Benny, my neighbor Steve, Monica, Marty, Kareem, and Denise. Welcome, everybody. If you're getting value, we'd love if you hit share, comment, like. Let's share this good stuff here. And if you have a question about leadership or this topic, or trust or respect, or about anything about network marketing, go ahead and type it in, because in shortly we're going to take some questions and answers. Also, I want to hear your takeaways too. That excites me to hear what means a lot to people. So fessing up to mistakes can be one of the hugest ways to get that trust, or get that trust back. And John Maxwell, who wrote this and many other books on leadership and success, he was a senior pastor at Skyline Church in San Diego, where I lived for 30 years. And they put on, like, for decades, this elaborate Christmas production. It was real huge and real big. But at this particular time, he was real busy traveling and speaking. And because he just thought, well, I'll take I'm real busy right now, but stuff needs to be done. So he took a shortcut and he made 3 major decisions himself without going through the usual channels and working with his leaders and getting their support with these decisions, and then letting it filter down to the people and finally announcing it to him. His decisions were right. They were not bad decisions, but it was the wrong way that he did it. And shortly after that, he noticed some rumblings among the people, among his people, his congregation, some rumblings of mistrust and unrest. And at first he thought, well, everybody should just get over it and move on. But then he realized that it was him that had the lesson. And he also realized his attitude wasn't good. And he said, that's not very, congruent with the guy who wrote the book, The Winning Attitude. Right? So we're all still learning. So what he did was he publicly announced his mistakes of not working with the traditional steps of the leadership, and he asked forgiveness. He said, people know when you make a mistake. So the question is, are you going to fess up? They know anyway, So after that, he did regain their trust by doing the right thing. And he said it didn't take too long, probably because he had a lot of pennies in his pocket, like Jeff was talking about. And I was thinking, man, that can work for a marriage too, right? The more deposits that you make of love and communication and respect and doing things consistently and doing the right thing that gains trust can weather a few mistakes and mishaps, because we all have them. I know one man said to me one time, he made a big mistake. And he came back and he didn't just say, well, I'm sorry. He said, I'm sorry, and how can I make this right? And I learned from that ever since. That was very, very valuable to me, to not just say, because I told the story about you pull the nails out of the, you pound a nail as a mistake that you made, you pull the nails out, well, the hole's still there. So what can I do to make this right? I really love that. Back to Jeff. Share a little more later. Back to Jeff.
Okay, so leading others to this law, you want to ask yourself a couple questions. It says, in your current position, what are some of the important things you do to build trust with others? What might happen if you stopped doing them? What would be the cost? And I think the best one is if you're in direct sales and you're presenting, you're out doing it, are you presenting in an area where people can see you're presenting? Are you logging that in? Even if you're not doing the physical presentation in front of the camera every day, to prove that you're in what you're in, to be able to, share awareness, using some of the scripts that we talk about. I mean, it's very easy to do. You can say, hey guys, the only reason I'm on here on Facebook Live sharing with you is I wanted to give you a quick overview of what I do. So in case you run into the right person, you can refer them to me. I just need a favor from everybody. If you open that way on a Facebook Live, you have the ability to come on every day and say this, and people are like, yeah, but the same people are watching. I can guarantee the same people are not watching, and the same people aren't watching the whole thing. Even on this show that's 30 minutes, we see people pop on, pop off, pop on, pop off, because there's so much going on in life right now. It's kind of like that commercial. They don't put a commercial on TV and play it once. They don't play it once on one channel. It's the same commercial over and over and over and over and over again for years. In fact, some of the commercials have been done so often that you've memorized them. I just watched a bunch of commercials. It's actually crazy. I put them on my Facebook page. It's funny. I watched a bunch of commercials from the 80s. They're like famous commercials from the 80s. And I started watching them and I remember them. Like they're ingrained so much because we saw them so many times. The same thing is true. The same thing is true if you go back and watch infomercials. There are some infomercials, like I was making a discussion about Charlton Sheets the other day and the no money down program because we were talking about housing. And I'm like, I bet that's somewhere online. Well, you type it in and everything's on YouTube. So I pulled it up and I was like, man. And I remember some of the houses that he walked through and how ugly some of those Florida houses are. And here's the thing, they're probably still there and they're probably still ugly. Because he actually said in one of his seminars that he bought and sold the same house 4 times in a period of about a decade. So that's just what happens. But it's that repetition. So think about this. In your position, what are some of the important things you can do to build trust with others? It's actually being able to present. Now, let's say you don't want to present online, and some people don't for whatever reason. Let's say at the end of the day, you just come on and say, hey guys, I just wanted to give you an update on what's going on in my business. Today, I was able to present to this and this and this, and here's the results. If you do that every day consistently, people are like, I don't know what this person's doing. I don't even know what they're presenting. I don't know what company it is, but people will reach out to you. Hey, you've been online every single day doing a Facebook Live about, kind of like your accountability. What in the world are you doing? People will just reach out. I mean, imagine this. Imagine instead of chasing people down, they're chasing you. Wouldn't that be interesting? That's what happens with what we're talking about, the law of solid ground. When you create that consistency, people reach out to you. It's kind of weird. The first time it happened to me, I was like, why are you reaching out? You know, and they were genuinely asking. They're like, well, we see you working and doing this stuff. We just didn't know what you do. When I was building the last company I was in, we did so many Starbucks meetings. I would literally have staff of the Starbucks or Panera Bread walk up to me and they're like, what do you do? I mean, I see you in here. You're in here at these specific times. I was in there such regularly at the same time, but there's always different people here. What exactly do you do? People were just interested because people can see that consistency. They see that commitment. They see the character behind what you're doing, that you're doing it so consistently that it can't be ignored. They have to ask, they have to find out. And then I just tell them, you know, if I wanted to talk to them, I would kind of, you know, pitch them. If I didn't want to talk to them, I'm like, oh, I'm in one of those, you know, those pyramid network marketing things. I mean, sometimes I couldn't even get that over. They were still like, really? Well, most people don't make money in those, do they? I'm like, yeah, most people don't, but most people probably aren't consistent. How often have you seen me here? They're like, every day. We know what you're ordering. I mean, I walked in and people are like, hey, I got your coffee and your, you know, cinnamon, what did I tell you? Cinnamon Toast Crunch bagel ready. I was like, oh, okay, great. I try not to eat many of those anymore because if you eat too many Cinnamon Toast Crunch bagels, you end up looking like a Cinnamon Toast Crunch bagel. The second thing is John mentions leaders can earn rational change if they have given, or if it's taken away. So I'm trying to get that. When we go out and we're doing it again and again and again, sometimes what you can do is you can earn change off of third-party verification. That's pretty much a good way to say what he's trying to say here, but he's talking about a work situation. Imagine walking in and gaining change off of somebody else. So this is the power of third party. If I give trust away and somebody gives it back to me, it's almost like, you know, I can say, hey, this is a great person to work with. And the person goes, no, this is the great person to work with. I've learned from them. It's almost like that person sees the other person give change. So it automatically increases value in the conversation. So that's the power of third party. People don't, that's a great visual. I need to use that visual more often because people just tend to understand money better than they do kind of respect and trust. It's a great way to kind of share it. It says, when you make mistakes, how do you restore confidence in yourself? Well, I mean, one of the things to do is just realize that everybody makes mistakes. I mean, you know, there are people out there, you know, I thought it was interesting that, you know, Steve Jobs, that we always talk about how amazing he was. He would come in and be like, look, I screwed this up, but we need to fix it. You know, I screwed this up. I made a decision. We went in the wrong direction. We spent time. We spent money that we don't have. So here's what we need to do. We need to turn all this around and focus on these things. But just being able to admit, hey, I screwed up. It's sometimes good to kind of look things over and be like, okay, have I messed up here? You know, what if I messed up on? Let's talk. I think one of the best things to do, and I had this come up a lot of times when you go to actually present. So this is a great thing to do. If you're in a company, you might have stalled and you haven't presented yet. Watch this. A lot of people are like, well, I feel weird talking to these people because I haven't talked to them for a while. The first thing you do is apologize for not talking to them for a while. Hey, I just wanted to reach out. I feel stupid because I actually saw, you know, I got involved in something. I got involved in a company that I'm now building, and you were one of the people I thought of, but I feel so terrible because it's been so long since we've talked, you know. So before I talk about anything, how are you? What are you doing? What's going on? You know, a lot of people are like, well, I haven't talked to these people in a while. Isn't it weird for me just to pitch them? I'm like, yes, that's not what you're supposed to do. These are people. It's a people business. So what you have to do is you have to work with people with, you know, human psychology says you need to apologize and catch up first. Hey, how are you? What's going on? They could be in the middle of a divorce. They could be in the middle of moving. They could be in the middle of losing a family member. And here you are coming along pitching your business. Why not find out who they are, where they're at first? Hey, how are you? What's going on? I'm sorry. I screwed up. I haven't. Now, here's the same thing. They haven't talked to you either. So by you admitting your mistake, They're like, oh my gosh, I'm an idiot. I haven't talked to you either. You know, we've been on Facebook. We haven't caught up. I said I was going to caught up. We haven't done it. So just break the ice by actually, watch this, calling out whatever's weird, calling out whatever you're feeling. Hey, I'm feeling a little awkward because I thought of you the other day because I was talking to a good friend. And then I realized I haven't talked to you forever. So I apologize. It's been so long since we've talked. That's it. Once you throw that out there, watch this. They're going to feel bad because they know they haven't talked to you either. They haven't reached out either. They're like, oh my gosh, I got busy and this happened and this happened and this happened. Catch up first. And then watch this. They'll catch up and then they'll feel sorry and then they'll reach out and then they'll ask you, well, what is it that you thought of? What did you want to tell me? Oh, yeah. And then you have the ability to, I needed a favor. I wanted to share this with you. But before that, I just wanted to catch up because I felt I was stupid. It had been so long. It's a great way to reconnect with people. 3, what can you do to keep track of trust you're building with relationships? Something that I learned from, you know, my mentor's mentor, Paul J. Meyer, is Paul J. Meyer said, there are important people in your life that you want to keep in touch with. And he's like, anything that he wanted to do consistently, he would track. And this might sound stupid, but he actually put notes inside of his planner of all the key people that he wanted to keep touch with, and he knew the date and the time he last talked to them. Now, that's detailed. The nice thing is about Facebook is if you keep in touch with people, this is one of the things I got accused of. I say accused because people were trying to make excuses for what they weren't doing. They're like, yeah, but you're so good at keeping in touch with everybody. And they're like, I'm just not like that. I said, well, all I do is I look through and I look for the people I haven't seen or talked to in a while. And I try to catch up with them. I'm like, hey, how are you? I haven't seen you forever. What's going on? What's happening? Adrian says family, occupation, recreation. Yeah. I mean, that's how to catch up. You know, you talk about family, you talk about occupation, you talk about recreation, you talk about the message. That's what I do, but I do it on a regular basis. And I'll look through my list of people on Facebook, and Facebook actually tracks the date and the time of when you last talked to someone. So in my messenger, I can scroll through and there's hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of messages of, hey, it's been a while. I made a mistake. Haven't talked to you forever. What's going on? Instead of like the message I got this morning, which was, hey, do you pitch this or are you into this? I haven't talked to this person in years. And all of a sudden, the only thing they want to know is, am I involved in this certain part of, the investing world? Oh yeah, that's really gonna, that makes me want to work directly with that person. Hey, I'm not interested in anything about you and how you are. I just want to know. Actually, Twan, who was on here earlier, we talked about that. He's like, hey, dude, we haven't talked forever, bro. What's up? Hey, I'm doing this new thing. Are you interested? No. Okay. Well, I won't talk to you again until the next time there's something that I need to pitch you 2.5, 3 years from now. If that's who you are, you need to make a lot of apology messages on Facebook today and watch the reaction. Just go through anybody this would be a good thing to actually go do. Go through your message board and say, hey, it's been a long time. We haven't talked. It's my fault. I screwed up. I haven't stayed in touch. What's going on in life right now? Send that to 10 people today on your Facebook Messenger and just see what kind of reaction you get back. It is absolutely amazing when you reach out first and you admit your mistake, what happens. And what you're doing is you're building the law of solid ground. So with that, I'm going to turn this back over to Bess for any closing thoughts so we can wrap up and get on with our day.
Thank you. Yeah, I love all these Facebook tips. Sometimes I'll just get on there and say, hey, let's catch up. What's happening? Just simple as that. And I often like to make the birthday videos. When somebody's birthday comes up, I like to just say, hi, see your birthday's coming up. Happy birthday. And thank you for all that you do. And just leave it at that. Just a hello and a well wish to stay in touch at least once a year with that person. And sometimes that leads to more conversations. The cool thing about Facebook Messenger is I can scroll above that and see when we last talked. So I can also mention, hey, whatever happened with this or this? Or did you get this question answered okay? So it's cool. There's this record right there of your past conversations. It makes it real easy. And if there isn't, or if it's been a long time, we can always go onto their Facebook personal page and see what their posts are saying lately. And I think it's really nice to go back and say, hey, how are you enjoying Jamaica? Instead of let's catch up, because they put the Facebook pages where people put what they're doing right now. It's their daily diary almost, for some people, almost daily. And so if they put that out and you say, hey, what's happening? They think, well, they didn't look. You know, if they really want to know what's happening, why don't they look at all the stuff that I wrote and posted and photographed? So I think it's a kind of a nice thing to go and check it out first so that you can refer to what's happening. Or something real big, they just had a baby and you write, hey, what's happening? They go, well, they didn't even bother to check. So Facebook gives us that opportunity to do that. And I want to say the people that have just recently popped on, to Tim and Harrison and Marilyn and Donald and Laura and Steve. And Harrison writes, it's better to own up to a mistake with responsibility than to shamefully live a lie. How bad would that feel? Yeah, it's a lot easier on us too, isn't it? And thank you, Julie and Adrian, for writing your takeaways. Would love to hear more. Harrison, so okay, we'll get into those in a second here. I'd love to hear more takeaways or more questions. Little tips I can leave you with about this law, the law of solid ground, which is very much about respect and trust. Assess how trustworthy you are. And you can gauge this by your team. How open are they with you? And your upline and company, how much responsibility do they entrust to you? Number 2 tip, build your character with integrity. That means being honest even when it hurts, and authenticity, like Jeff said, just be you and say what's really happening at that moment. Apologize if it's been a while or you feel awkward about something, say that. Just be you. And do the right things even when, despite how you feel, even if you feel tired or mad, you know, do the right things or do your best to do that. And of course, apologize when you hurt or betray someone so that you can slowly re-earn their trust. And so Harrison says, so what's Eric Worre said about being a farmer instead of a hunter? Yes, that is an old analogy that actually we want to plant the seeds and plant the crops and water them and tend to them and nurture them and nourish them and let them grow, rather than I'm out to kill. Let's kill this, let's crush this, let's, even though we all say that, right? But rather than let's kill this, how about let's nourish this, let's grow this, let's edify this, right? Instead of I'm out to kill people or hunt people. So nobody likes to be hunted, but people do like to be nourished. Does that answer, Harrison? At least my take. And great, Monica, this is great information in this industry. Thank you. Thank you so much, everybody. Any other questions, takeaways, comments, needs? If you're not yet a member of the MLM, the Facebook group, MLM Lunchtime Leadership Show, you can go there and request membership, and then we can add you in. That gives you the notices, the replays, free book, community there. There's a wonderful group of people. It's over 300 now. The best people that I know, they're focusing on leadership, and we get to do this together. If you'd like a text reminder every weekday before this, just private message me and we can arrange that. By the way, Jeff gave a really, really lucrative, valuable money-making tip about getting on Facebook Live and making these videos. Hey, can I ask you a favor? I want to let you know what I'm doing in case you run across the right person. You can refer them to me. That is guaranteed to just take shoot your business off the ground, get it really going. So we teach this and more of some of his methods he's come up with, and the skills that we teach skills in a Sunday night class. For those who want more, I'll put that link in there too. It's very inexpensive so that everyone can get coaching this way. Back to Jeff.
So, answering Harrison's question about, the whole farmer versus hunter, I think people use that analogy to be lazy in a lot of cases. They use that analogy to get out of presenting. They use that analogy, well, I just don't know the person well enough. And I only say people use this because I used this in the beginning where I wouldn't present to somebody right away. I would try to build this relationship. I'll be real honest. Nowadays, people don't have, back when Eric Worre was building the business actively, he hasn't built a business in the network marketing sense, and over a decade now. I think it's been a decade since he's been involved, like actually building, because he's been building his current business, or maybe right around 10 years, right? Or maybe is it 9 or 10, Bess?
Close.
Because I think this year is like the 9th year of the Network Marketing Pro. But what I've found is people are using these analogies from a long time ago, but now people are on it. They're ready to go. They're ready to do this right now. So what you want to do is use both. The world has become more aggressive because of social media and because of the ability to get a hold of people. So what I want is, I want to be aggressive. I want to be a hunter when it comes to getting the information in front of the right people. I'm hunting the right people to talk to. But the farming part is the seed I'm planting isn't, hey, I might be involved in something, but I'm not going to tell you what it is. That's not planting. But planting a seed is, hey, do me a favor. Let me tell you what I am doing. So at a certain point, if you're interested, or a certain point, if you run across the right person, you could actually refer them to me. That's planting a positive seed. Actually presenting and showing people what you do. You know, too many people are like, they're trying to remain somewhat incognito to what they do and think that they're building some kind of relationship. But here's how it comes across. It comes across like, this person actually wants something from me, but they're too timid to actually get it out. So therefore, my curiosity is what are they trying to scam me out of, rather than, you know, just coming out and saying it. So there's a point where you can be blunt about what you're doing. It's just be blunt in the right way. Does that help out, Bess?
Yeah, great points. That's the balance. Yeah, so I like the idea of hunting for an opportunity to present, hunting, asking, hey, let's catch up. Let's see what's happening with you. I'd love to hear your story. Thank you.
So with that, guys, we're going to go ahead and wrap this lesson up. The law of solid ground. I hope you got a lot out. If you did, we always want to hear your insights, you know, what you thought of this, what you got out of it. Obviously, a lot of people have already written that, so we appreciate that. And like always, we have this class every single day, Monday through Friday at 12 noon Eastern Standard Time. It's a 30 to 45 minute overview of one of John's laws. We go over one each day. And then we have a replay actually on YouTube and also in our Facebook group, the MLM Lunchtime Leadership Show. If you haven't already joined that, you know, go over to that, you know, type that into the search bar on Facebook, and we would like to connect you to the group. Also, we ask is, you know, you keep it generic, non-company specific, no links to other companies, no links to, hey, go buy this program, you know, my company is, you know, this, and here's our product line, and blah, blah, blah. This is specifically towards leadership. If you have a question, it's a great place to ask a question. Hey, I'm having problems contacting, or I'm having problems presenting, or I'm having problems with this particular situation. But just make it non-company specific. No companies, no names, no products. We'd appreciate that. And if you do violate that, we'll have a conversation with you, and we'll go from there. So with that being said, thank you so much for joining us. As always, we appreciate it. We would love if you like, share, or comment, and send this to somebody who needs it. And back to Bess, and we'll wrap it up.
Thank you all for being here. You're important. You're the people that go out and spread this goodness to many others. Thank you for being here.
Thanks, guys. Have a good day.